Guerin. Commissioner Williams is absent with an unfortunate family situation, although he may be watching on YouTube. Present via Zoom, we have Jackie Brooks in my office who is administering this and will be running some of the slideshow in the background. We have Sam Gregson from Westlake Cummings, who is a consultant on two projects. We have Jeffrey Allen and Michael Pritchett, I see, and I see attendance from in the Mills County Sheriff's Office, looks like Tina Allensworth, and I believe we were just joined by, don't forget to sign in.
Yes, sign in.
There's a sheet by the door. Okay, so with that, I would move we recess this meeting of Commissioners Court to conduct a public hearing. Is there a second?
So second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are now in a public hearing to consider the establishment of what would be called the Bluebonnet Wind Power LLC reinvestment zone. With this, I have asked representatives from Bluebonnet to let me rearrange my screen for a minute.
Your Honor, Mr. Kelsey's screen is saying he's still waiting to be admitted to the meeting.
Okay. Jackie, could you make sure? There we go.
Oh, we got him. Thank you.
Okay. So,
Good morning.
Good morning. Remind everybody that the purpose of this is to consider the establishment of a reinvestment zone. To establish a reinvestment zone, the county has to publish a notice in the newspaper 7 days in advance of the public hearing, which has happened. We have to give notice via mail and registered mail to the other taxing authorities that are potentially involved, and that too has happened. I don't notice any of them in attendance and have not had a response. The criteria for establishing a reinvestment zone is that the area must contribute the project must contribute to the creation of new employment. It must attract major investment, and it must be an authorized project pursuant to the guidelines and criteria which the county has in place for the creation of reinvestment zones and tax abatements. Those are the critical things. I'd like to start, just so everybody knows where we're going, with a presentation from Bluebonnet Wind Power LLC to explain, to show the project, the scope, any details, and then we will throw it open to the public for questions and comments. So, Ms. Brooks, if you would share your screen and start the Bluebonnet presentation, and then whoever from Bluebonnet speaking, if you would just tell Ms. Brooks when to change slides.
Perfect. Thank you, Judge Smith. This is
Let's
William Kelsey.
Let's let the slide get up, Mr. Kelsey, and okay, change it to
The second page would be great.
okay. The show is
Yeah.
yours, Kelsey.
Yep. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to consider our reinvestment zone for this project. And I hope everybody's doing well during these strange times, and I look forward to visiting with you about this project. I thought that maybe I would start by just telling you guys a little bit about our company, and then talk about the project. Unless, Judge, you just want me to skip straight to the project.
No, I think that
Yeah.
would be appropriate. We
Yeah.
need to understand your outfit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, so Swift Current is a company that we started early in 2016, and my name's William Kelsey. I'm the Chief Development Officer. I'm one of the founding partners of the firm, and we have 6 partners in the firm, and we are all renewable energy professionals that have known and worked with one another over the last 20 years. And so we took the opportunity in 2016 to come together as a team and start Swift Current. And so, if you fast forward to today, we have about 15 employees. We have offices in Maine, Massachusetts, Texas, and Montana. And we have a portfolio of projects that spread, from Maine to Pennsylvania to Ohio, Kentucky, and Texas and Illinois. And
Let us try and move to that slide, if you will, Mr. Kelsey.
yeah, okay.
There we go. One more, please, Jackie. There we go.
And I think the things that differentiate us from others in the marketplace is that we're not kind of true developers that come in and develop projects and sell them to somebody else and then leave. The team that you guys are dealing with, sometimes they don't stick around for the long haul, and that's not what we're doing. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to develop this project, and it's something that we would like to own and operate. And so we're going to be around for the long haul. Considering some of the complexities of the area, we've really appreciated the cooperation by the local community and Mills County and our landowners to work with us to be in a position to ask you guys for this reinvestment zone. The reinvestment zone, if you just the Bluebonnet project, it consists of basically 19 to 21 4.5 megawatt wind turbines. I guess if you look at the footprint, the actual footprint of Bluebonnet inside of the reinvestment zone, it's 2,537 acres. And I know the reinvestment zone is a little bit bigger than that. That has to do with, basically we're including, the boundaries of all the parcels of land that we're using in the project. And the purpose for the reinvestment zone is obviously so that we can later apply for or work with the county to put together a tax abatement plan. And so those are our plans, and the reason why we're doing this. I'm not sure. Do you guys have any questions about anything that I've said so far?
Let me try and get the reinvestment zone map up.
Okay.
Your Honor, this is Sam Gregson with Cummings Westlake. The map that you currently have up, I wanted to make sure that the court is aware that, there is a statutory 25-mile radius for reinvestment zones and any abatements within 25 miles of a military base. And that red line that you see there indicates that everything on the reinvestment zone is beyond the 25-mile limit that is statutorily required. So we did meet that with the request for this reinvestment zone.
Thank you. Let me move to the Google map. That's a little better picture, I think, for us. And then if you could zoom in on it, please, Jackie, and make it as large as possible on the screen. Okay, we'll look. Yeah, we'll just go with that. Maybe go to the, make sure you're in the slideshow format. Or that map, and it's also on the county website in the application, and it should be in each commissioner's package, actually shows the outline of the reinvestment zone and the proposed turbine locations. I think everything is a little subject to change depending on engineering, seismic, and other stuff, but that I think is the best guess at the moment from the developer. Are there any
that layout, Judge, shows our actual turbine locations, and we're planning to develop. I don't know if those if that map shows our alternate turbine locations, but we are going to develop 19 to 21 of those sites, and those are the sites that will be used, and they will not move. It will just be some combination of those sites, and the number of turbines that we'll install at Bluebonnet will be between 19 and 21 turbines.
Let me, at this point, that's a good overview from the company. Ask if there's anybody from the public in the audience that would like to either speak or ask a question. And after we've covered all the public input, we'll give the officials a chance to question if they wish. Are there any speakers from the public? Okay, commissioners.
I have none.
Commissioner Wright.
I have none.
Okay. Commissioner Guerin.
Not this time.
Okay. Well, I think we have conducted a public hearing. We have heard from Bluebonnet Wind Power LLC on their, let me just ask a few questions for the record. Mr. Kelsey, what would be the total amount of your investment in this project?
$200+ million.
Say 200 million plus.
Mm-hmm.
And if I should be asking this question to Mr. Gregson, I'll put it there, make sure he's unmuted. So the questions are the size of the investment, and the answer was 200 million plus. The other question that's applicable to a reinvestment zone decision is number of permanent jobs created. If you would speak to that.
Sam, how many permanent jobs have we listed in the application?
We need to unmute Sam.
I've asked him to unmute.
I'm sorry. Am I okay now?
We
Yep.
can hear you. The question was jobs.
I believe. Hang on just a second. I believe three. Generally, it's or two. Pardon me, two. It's the industry standard is one job for every 15 turbines. So you would have two, and that's what we've also filed for in the school abatements. There may be actually some more, and I'd let William speak to that. That will not be. They may have some others that are FTEs that combine to more than one, but what we've committed
I think the way to
both applications is two. So,
Judge, I think the way to think about it is that you're going to have a site manager and a site assistant manager. And those guys are going to be charged with managing the facility and managing the ongoing maintenance of the facility. And the way that we'll contract for maintenance is that for the first 5 years, it'll be contracted with the original equipment manufacturer of the turbines. And the way those guys do that is they generally have kind of a roving maintenance crew that will focus on their portfolio of turbines that are in a certain state or in a certain geographic location. So we will have, two permanent jobs that will be created that for people who will live in the community and be the face of the project. But we will have lots of people from Texas who will be periodically working on aspects of the project during operations. And during construction, which will last basically 12 to 15 months. There'll be several hundred people working on the site at any one time.
Okay, well, that wasn't intended to be a trick question. There's
No.
yes, you have to meet to establish a reinvestment zone or a substantial investment. I mean, three tests: a qualified project, which our definition is a renewable energy source is, and then the creation of permanent jobs. And the answer is 2 permanent jobs, and that's job creation. So that's what I wanted to get on the record. We appreciate there's a lot of other people that will work on the project. There's construction, but the test for the reinvestment zone was the permanent jobs. I just wanted to make sure it was asked and answered.
Understood. Thank you.
Let me ask our attorney, Jeff Allen, I think he's online. Is there anything else we need to cover, Mr. Allen?
No, I think that covers most of what y'all would need to know for the designation of the reinvestment zone.
Okay. Well,
Morning,
if there's no further questions, then we will adjourn the public hearing on the Bluebonnet Wind Power LLC reinvestment project. Our next public hearing is at 10:30, and following that project's public hearing, we will reconvene Commissioners Court to consider and act on the establishment of reinvestment zones. We will leave this same meeting ID in place. So if you're attending remotely and want to come back later, you're welcome. But it will be dead air until 10:30, and then it's your competitors. And then after that, the court will take whatever action it deems appropriate. So I want to thank everybody for attending this public hearing, and the hearing is now closed.
Judge Smith.
Yes.
This is you guys are going to reconvene at 10:30 this morning.
That's correct. On this same login.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really?
Toddy Hillsfield.
I can believe that. That wind blows across there. It freezes everything. Anyhow, I'm not gonna say much. I don't know. I'm just gonna. It's easier that way than nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's driving. It's fun watching. Another one of those counties. There you go. The other one, she said it could be. Yeah. Yeah.
This mountain, this pretty one, very plain, is it?
Yeah, we can. I think we'll be able to do a better display on this one. If you look at it, is that the pretty map? If you look at it on our website,
Pretty.
you can blow it up as big as you want.
Oh, we
And I
tried to
think we'll
blow it
be
up
able-
last night, it kept getting out of it. I spent a lot of time on that damn internet the last 2 days. I get the computer so screwed up that my wife can't get it, and we have to call the boy back in. Y'all gonna have to learn to run this yourself.
Are you seeing much road activity yet or? Did you and Jed ever come to terms on a road use agreement with them? We approved it, didn't we?
With what?
Road use agreement.
Yeah, but I ain't seen nobody, period. I have not seen wind energy pick up or anybody else.
They've told me they either have hired or they're going to hire Blackner to do all the
Roads?
yeah, whatever they do to do the construction. But that all that first stuff we were fighting about when they wanted to bore a hole, just like
They're not gonna do that.
no.
I don't think so.
What's in the steel right here in my precinct?
Center Point. Let's see, I don't have that. I've got that. I had that stuff out this morning. Them that I didn't bring it with me. There's some roads on that map that I don't know how they're gonna navigate around them unless they're just in a pickup.
I think we'll probably do the same thing we did before, let the public talk and then let us ask them questions if we can. And that's a good question to ask.
What's that?
How they're gonna get to that one without a road. I mean, in the one down in precinct, whatever that is, 1, 2, they built the roads right across people's place to,
That's what they're gonna do.
yeah,
They will. That won't have nothing to do with us.
yeah.
But then that goes back to this. Road agreements.
The only one.
Mhm.
Are we gonna enforce it on those people?
Yeah.
Because they're building a road through someone else's place.
Well, it's not a public road, it's a private road, so they have to use it.
This landowner buys this land, that's a private road. If he
They
puts
would
it in there himself.
Yeah. But it's not a subdivision because they're not creating lots back in there to resell.
And I understand that that one guy come in here.
It's just like if somebody's drilling oil on your place, they run roads to the well sites that nobody can use but them, but that doesn't mean you subdivided your property.
Well, that's true too.
I mean, you still own it. Thank you. That's the only one we got.
Yeah.
27, about time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, mine was worth it all kinds of kills. And I went to.
Tanya, go get rain. Go get rain.
And they said, and I said, "Didn't you know?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, I told you."
I did.
It got cold enough that I think they hauled off 3 debtors yesterday.
Well, I just can't think. No.
I hauled off about 7.
No,
It ain't good, it's better.
remember, you're going to let Christina White co-host. Go ahead and be setting that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, you got that first release. Yeah, we don't want him up there. We put him out there. Put him out there. Jill had him over here at one time.
That's no way I can hear.
I know.
It's sound in here, terrible.
Well, they've got it fixed now. These speakers are a bit better. Instead of coming out of that speaker. So they're working. We're soft.
We may not want you to hear it.
I'll talk to you later.
Oh, dude.
Okay, it's 10:30. It is time we are commencing a public hearing on the establishment or the potential establishment of a reinvestment zone styled Pretty Wind Project LLC. And we have present in the court, in addition to myself as county judge, Commissioners Wright, Hall, and Guerin, and County Clerk Sonia Scott. We have members of the public in the audience. We have representatives of the sponsor of the project, which is NG Online. Christina White, I believe, is the project manager. I see Sam Gregson, who is a consultant for NG. There may be others, and this is streamed to YouTube, both live and for recording purposes. So there very well may be other people watching it now or in the future. We're going to, the consideration before the court is to conduct a public hearing to get public input on the establishment of a reinvestment zone. Just to remind everybody, the test to establish a reinvestment zone is that it must be in our jurisdiction, which means the county. It must result in new investment in the zone, and it must result in the expansion of primary employment, and it must be an authorized project. The county's guidelines and criteria define authorized projects and include renewable energy resources. So that one is kind of a given. What I think the best way to proceed would be to let the representatives of NG give an overview of their project, of NG, of the project, of the timeline, of the maps, then throw it open for public comment and discussion, and then have whatever discussion the court would like to have if the public doesn't ask about it. So with that, we're experimenting again with technology, and I believe we have arranged for Christina White from NG in California to conduct a presentation from her end. So she should be flipping the slides and on the screen that's displayed on the side of the courtroom. And with that, Ms. White, are you prepared to proceed? Well, let's start with unmuting you. Jackie, there we go. Now try it, Ms. White.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but probably
okay.
the more you speak up, the better. We have a couple of us here that are a little hard of hearing.
Let's try this in speaker again. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. Can you also see my screen? So you can see my screen as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. As Judge Smith said, my name is Christina White. I am the lead developer for the Pretty Wind project that we're proposing out in the county. We really appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak with you. And while we're here to discuss the reinvestment zone for the Pretty project, I thought that this would be a good opportunity to also provide an update on the project itself and see where we stand today. Let's see. Goodness, I'm having, oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to provide a quick overview of NG for those who may not be familiar with the company. We are a multinational company. We have offices and projects in over 70 countries. Our global headquarters is in France, but our NG North America division, which oversees all of our renewable projects, including wind, solar, and battery storage, is based out of Houston, although I'm actually in Arizona. We have more than 10,000 megawatts of wind power in operation and development in North America, and our near-term portfolio includes 9 projects and over 10,000, over 2,000 megawatts that'll be operational by the end of this year. So most of our projects, as you can see, it tends to be concentrated in the central plains of the U.S., where we have excellent wind resource. So you can see in this map, you can actually go to our site as well and click on some of these projects just to see more photos and updates on the recent turbine models we've been working with. The project itself, it can support up to 300.24 megawatts. The size is wholly dependent on the offtake agreement that we're looking to secure. We have over 100 landowners and over 33,000 acres signed under wind and transmission line easements. We've continued to monitor wind in the area to give us a sense of how to best optimize our layout. And what we've been really focused on in this past year is ongoing surveys and studies that will help assist us in optimizing that layout. And so these studies include the biological surveys that we've been out there doing, the cultural, sound, shadow flicker, and wetlands. So as we've been getting results from these surveys, we've been incorporating that into our design and engineering to accommodate any constraints that these surveys have identified. So we've also continued to do a lot of title work. We have a lot of parcels that we've signed that I've mentioned. This is to ensure that we have the right property boundaries identified and allows us to clean up any cloud on title that would affect our ability to build the project. A couple of months ago, we also signed an interconnection agreement with Oncor and ERCOT, which effectively would allow us to tie power produced from the project into the grid. And as previously discussed, what makes a project real is our ability to obtain a power purchase contract, find a buyer that we could sell the power produced at the site to. While we're unable to provide the details at this time, we are in the process of finalizing the contract, and we hope to provide the court and community soon with a positive update. And with that, given the constraints on the site and overall availability, we have evaluated numerous turbine models, and we hope to close this item out really soon as well. A lot of the questions that we've received from the public and the community are schedule related. So many want to know what we're looking at in terms of timeline should this project move forward, which we firmly believe it will. As you can see in the schedule, we're looking to start mobilizing the site in early March of next year. Initial efforts will include prepping portions of the site where the transmission line from the project will tie into the point of interconnection. And that point is at the existing Brown-Colleen 345 kV line that's south of the project site. These efforts will also include doing any road improvements that'll be needed for delivery of the turbine blades and other large equipment, grading, getting the foundations ready for when the turbines will be installed, also along with substation work. So throughout the year, we look to be building the turbines and substation through the fourth quarter of next year, with installation of the collection system and transmission line happening in the third quarter. So from September to October of next year, we'll be testing the turbines and commissioning them to bring them online. So as various areas around the site are completed, we'll be focusing our efforts on site reclamation as well. So at this point in time, we're hoping to be operational sometime in the fourth quarter of next year. It could be October through December. A lot of it depends on a variety of factors, like equipment arriving to the site on time. So we do have our pre-construction team on the call, and we also have, I believe we might have Blattner as well. They are our EPC contractor that will be building the project site, installing the turbine and other work. So let me see. So here I placed the reinvestment zone map for the project that has also been included in the 313 agreement that we currently have going with the school district. Our project site is outlined in black with the our turbines highlighted in red. We included the turbine locations of the adjacent flat top wind project, as well as the Goldwaith project from Invenergy. So the Invenergy one, the Goldwaith is in purple, and the flat top is in blue.
Ms. White, can you zoom that map a little bit for us, please?
Yeah, let's see. Is that better? Well, it's not as clear, but okay. So I wanted to note that these locations are not final. This was a map that was submitted months ago as part of our 313 application, hasn't taken into consideration any constraints that we have found from our surveys and the design and engineering work that is done to date. So just, if anyone has any concerns about the turbine layout itself, just please note that this is not yet final. The reinvestment zone, as you can see, it's highlighted in red, although we're only hoping to take a portion that's highlighted in black. And the main reason for that is really because we may need to make adjustments to where we place some of the turbines, and it's easier to request a larger reinvestment zone now than having to come back and amend this map. So that's really the primary reason for that. Okay. And finally, per Judge Smith, we understand that we have to meet certain requirements in order to move forward with establishing the reinvestment zone. So I highlighted some of the project benefits. The project, as Judge Smith stated, is in Mills County. We anticipate a capital investment of $312 million to build and operate the project. During construction, we hope to have a peak, or we expect to have a peak of 250 employees. And during operations, we anticipate having about 8 permanent jobs, some of which will be under the NG umbrella, others under the actual turbine supplier once we've finalized that contract. And again, those include supervisor positions, technician positions. And total annual payroll from these employees is anticipated to be around $464,000, with the average wage estimated at $58,000. So while not part of the process of establishing the reinvestment zone or even the 312 agreement, we just wanted to highlight that our operations teams also set aside an additional $25,000 a year to be allocated to support the community, depending on the various needs that may arise during the life of the project. This is really about it. I've also provided a list of key contacts of myself, Kennedy Singer, who's our senior land agent, who's working with our on-site, on-the-ground agent, and we have Kurt Robinson from our pre-construction delivery team, and also Russell Graham, who is our land agent out in Texas. So happy to answer any questions. Or shoot back to any slide that you guys want to go back and see.
Could you go back to the map we were looking at, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There you go.
Now, I thought the school, I thought I'd seen a map that showed school district boundaries. So this goes into at least 2 or 3 different school districts. Is that correct?
2 school districts that are in Mills County. I think we have, we go a little bit into the next county over, but we do not have a 3.
Okay.
And asking this.
Go ahead. This is a public hearing. This would probably be the time. We have the public in the audience. If there's anyone that would like to either speak or ask questions, I have a portable mic, and this is important. Although we can hear you well here, the people on Zoom cannot necessarily hear you, and on YouTube absolutely wouldn't. So if you would like to either speak or ask a question, please come up here, get a mic, and if you could stand somewhere in the front of the room and maybe either speak toward the slides, the overhead cameras, or Duke Andrews, you'll be picked up on camera. So, and that's for the benefit of the people that are remote. The cameras are up here. You can't see them till you come up front. That's why we're asking you to come. So, and we have a taker. Here's the microphone, and you will note the dainty sanitary cover. You may take you'll need, and the cameras are up there So if you would kind of stand near the bench and either talk that way or this way and identify yourself and have at it.
Hi, I'm Peggy Hammond. I'm part of this pretty project, and I was just wondering when you will be communicating with the landowners about what's going on, when and where it's going to be, and when they're going to be on our places. Will you let us know that, even for Blackner? Because I know the transmission line is going through my place, but I haven't been told that. It's just rumor, and I was just wondering, when you will tell the landowners what's happening and who got what. I know it's not 100% and it could change, but all we have is rumors right now. That's all.
Ms. White, could you hear that?
Yes, I just wasn't sure if you wanted me to respond at this time. I'm happy to. Yeah, so what we're currently looking at is we've recently completed our 30% design package. We're working on our 60% design. We hope to receive all of our surveys, our cultural, wetlands, noise. We hope to receive that in the next few weeks. And once we have that, we can then advance our design package and then start working on site plan review, which we would go out to the community, or really the specific landowners, with a map of their parcel and showing them what will be intended to be placed for review. So we hope to do that over the next couple of months.
Okay.
Definitely before the end of the year. Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Ms. Hammond? Thank you. Other speakers? Come on up, Mr. Tamania. Let me change my microphone cover.
That's okay. I have a mask on.
Okay.
And I don't spit.
Well, here, if you would, they're the cameras. So if you would either face that way or this way, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Okay. My name is Don Tamania. We live about smack dab in the middle of this project on the Highway 16 side. And I'm here, and I've been before, not to stop the project, but to have some reasonable setbacks for people that live there. Christina, is there any way that you can get a map or have this map showing where residents are and where people live? Because there are not a whole lot of people that live in the part of the county where your project is. From our front porch, we can see about 100 windmills right now. And with your 68, that'll make 168 in about a 320-degree arch around our place. So obviously, the closer they are to where we live, the worse it's going to be for our lifestyle. We came here about 5.5 years ago with the intention of this being the last place we were going to live when we moved from Colorado. It's always been kind of a dream of ours to have some land and a place of our own. We don't have a lot of land. We only have about 50 acres, so we're not a huge landowner. And the idea of having all of these windmills, if we had known in advance, we probably wouldn't have moved here. As I'm sure you know, there's a lot of people that don't move where there's a lot of wind farms. Not because they object to wind farms as a source of energy, it's just that you have to live around. It's kind of living at the base of the Eiffel Tower. Nice place, but you wouldn't want to live there. So our question is there a way that we can get some kind of agreement on a setback that is more than what you're proposing? I was kind of intrigued with the picture that you had of the windmills with the cows in the front. Those windmills are about 5 miles away. It would be good to have a picture where you show where your proposal is for 1,500 feet or 1,000 feet, which makes a big difference, especially when you're talking about a 500-foot tower and having to live there. So we'd like consideration that if you can show where people live over there, I think it would give the commissioners a better idea when we talk about setbacks in the abatement application, that will have some idea what we're talking about. And if you could do that between now and then, that would be great. Appreciate that. I have a handout that is just a basic discussion on wind farm and wind tower setbacks. I don't have a copy for you because I don't, but you can get a copy from the court. And I'm giving this to each one of the commissioners and the judge, so there's not a question. So there's not a question of what we're proposing, or not proposing, but what we're suggesting for those of us that live in this neck of the woods. I'm hesitant to lick my fingers, so I can get these apart and do that. So I'll do this.
Mr.
Do this, and I have a copy for Commissioner Wright.
You have one, we need one for the court.
Well, I'll have you get a copy.
Mr. Tumenia, this is dated September 4th. Is this one you've given me before?
Yes,
You were
this is a
okay.
discussion we had, but I don't know if the commissioners got it, and I wanted to be sure that each one.
I don't know, but
commissioners had it in their hand.
Judge has shared.
But that also has been shared with Ms. White, so she has.
Oh, so you have a copy of it. Wonderful. Well, that's great. Then I'm hoping the next time we talk, we'll have some agreement on what we need to do.
Could you show us on the map, just walk up through the jury box and point where your place is, Mr. Tumenia?
Sure. Our property is right about there. So if you can see all of this and all of that, and it's hard to tell because you don't have a topo, that where 259 is the top of the hill, and the property from here to there, this windmill and that windmill are less than a half a mile away from our property line. And this windmill, which is the closest right now, about a mile, and the same with these. So we live this way. So looking south, right now we have about 30 here, and looking northwest, we have about another 80 over here. And if you're rear and you look up this way, you can see the Comanche Mountains. So we live in a windmill forest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to speak or ask questions? Mr. Gray, let me do the microphone honors. Dr. Graves, if you would introduce yourself and speak either to the cameras or the map.
I'm Tom Graves, landowner in this area, and I'm also on the Pretty Wind Farm Committee. I think our last speaker was moved from a forest fire. Also, we've already looking north and south at more wind farms than he's going to see from this group. The other thing, there's two things that I want to bring out. One is that this is not on.
Is the green light on?
Let me check over here. Can you hear me?
That's on. Let me, here, Mr. Graves, we'll give Dr. Graves, you just use that.
Start over.
A little bit.
Okay, I'll start over.
For the audience.
I'm Tom Graves. I'm a landowner in this area and also on the Pretty Wind Farm Committee. I think the last speaker is glad that he's not in Colorado with the forest fires up there. Two is that he's already looking at more wind farm turbines than you'll probably see from this particular one. Three is that the wind farms are going up. The actual generators have been changed now. They're going to a larger generator. We've been told that we've been dropped probably about a third of the numbers that are going up because of the size of the generators. So there's actually going to be less wind farms to be seen at this area. The other thing is the committee early on, as you can see the outline of this, when we were dealing with Invenergy, we doubled the size of the footprint so that the landowners that were not getting wind generators, which we didn't know who was or who was not, but also in the low-lying areas that would not get a generator, that they would be able to get lease money. So we basically nearly doubled the size of the footprint so that the economic benefit would be there. I think this is a huge economic benefit for our county and our school districts. Pretty and Goldthwaite are the two school districts that would be involved. So I appreciate the hard work that y'all are doing to make this thing happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graves. Anybody else from the audience like to speak? Can't believe Duke Andrews doesn't want to say something. Okay.
I have no questions.
Is any questions from the court? Commissioner Wright, anything you'd like to add or ask?
I noticed in this project, they're having more full-time employees too. Like, and also the project amount is what, 312 million?
Yes, yeah.
But the 8 full-time employees, that's a bit more than the last presentation we had.
Yes, this is, I think this project started out with first time the application came in, it was 114 turbines. Now it's 63 turbines, but it's consistently been 300 megawatts and about $300 million. So that's the sizing.
That's all I have. Good.
Did you have a question about commencement and timing, or has it been answered? Okay. Commissioner Gearing, anything?
Yes, sir. On the Blue Bond, what is your time frame on that? When are y'all gonna start? What's the projected start and completion date?
Christina White represents NG, so she really can't speak to that. Maybe Sam Gregson can. Okay.
Sorry, sir. Do you mind speaking into the mic a little bit more?
Mr. Gregson, are you familiar with the timing on the other project, the Bluebonnet project?
Believe that would be starting to construct late in toward the end of this year and completed by the end of next year, I believe is the target, 21-22.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Gearing? Any other questions or comments before we close the public hearing?
I've just got one question. I understood the connection between.
Mr. Park, if you would, let's come up and try the microphones. See if this one works for you. It didn't work for Dr. Graves, and otherwise. No. Okay. Here's this one.
The only question I have, I hear that the connection between the Pretty wind farm and the connection power-wise with, I don't know what they call this, one,
Bluebonnet.
No. One is Invenergy. The other Pretty connections between the power sites and the connection were all underground. My understanding is that this transmission line from one project to another is going to be above ground. Is that right? Correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's the only thing I have.
Invenergy, some of their projects are above ground also.
On this one?
Yes.
Okay, well, see, the Pretty deal, everything from turbine to turbine is buried.
So is this.
So is this one. But this one, from the connection of the Pretty to the Invenergy is going to be, the one line is going to be all above ground.
Ms. White, could you use your mouse and show where what we're talking about, where your above ground transmission line starts above ground and where it terminates?
Sure. So do you see my cursor over this orange box?
I can't, but I'm blind.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me
Yes,
see, maybe I
so
can-
we have some sightings.
Okay. So from this orange box, this will be our substation, the project substation. So we have all the turbines and all of our collection lines. We'll go to this project substation. From here, we'll have a transmission line, roughly, I don't know. It'll connect all the way down here. This is our point of interconnection right here in green. So roughly around this strip, we'll be running our transmission line over to this location. It'll be above ground.
So it's underground from your turbines to the orange substation. And then you're proposing above ground from that orange dot all the way to the southern tail of your zone. And that is roughly, I think, where the big overhead Encore lines run. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And all of that overhead line has to be constructed. There's no existing, nothing there, right?
No, that's right. That's right.
All of it has
It
to
would be new.
With, I mean, everything in there is gonna be leased land. But you will have possibly issues or whatever from landowners setting towers and stuff, or pole towers. Has that been hashed out, or is that something that's henceforth?
Yeah, Kurt, if you're on, would you mind speaking to this, or Mary Catherine?
Yeah, this is Kurt. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So just repeat the question if you don't mind.
The communications towers that will have to be from one project to the other have to be constructed. Have the landowners, do they realize this yet? Or is there something in progress?
It's in progress. I mean, Christina, this is a transmission line easement question. So we do have the easement in place and it is in progress. Like Christina mentioned earlier, we're still finalizing design. The route between the project substation, the orange, and the point of interconnection, the green, is not 100% finalized yet. And once that is, then that'll be part of our site plan. And when we sit down with landowners to go over infrastructure, that will be part of that conversation.
Okay, I just wondering on that.
I got a question. Turbines down here on the south end of it, do they go all the way back to the substation before they go into that power line? Or are they going straight to the power line?
So are you the red, our project? Are you talking about the south end of our project? Are they going to go north to orange and then, yes, they will.
They go straight into the grid.
They'll run into the orange square in the middle.
Okay.
Okay,
they're going to go all the way back north and then come back.
So if the orange substation was on the south end of the project, then your overhead lines would be reduced substantially. I mean, I'm not asking them economically. I mean, just that's the way it would shake out, right?
Yes, sir, it would, but there's a disadvantage to that, right? And so we run these optimization calculations. So if we were to site that project substation, the orange, further south, what we end up doing, yes, we are reducing the overall length of the transmission line, but we are increasing the collection line for all of those turbines to the north that need to run south. So there's a give and take there that we look at those options when we're going through the early design stages and we figure out what's most optimal. obviously taking into consideration the land and what we have available to use. So all of those things go into this process.
And anybody's property you will cross with a transmission line would be, you would have a lease agreement in place with them.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Was that a yes?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Andrews, if you'd come up and use the mic, or you can use that microphone, but I would like for you to be on camera a little bit. If you could come forward, you're good.
I'm Duke Andrews, and I was fortunate enough to be in the Invenergy project. I bought a home after that, right across the road. Somebody says, does it bother you? I said, it sure does when they're not turning. But I was also the last person, I was told as the last person, to be contacted and sign a lease for the transmission line coming over my place. Mine is the last place in the chain to get to Chunky's place where the substation is going to be. So the only thing I got in this is I'm going to get some money for a transmission line. But I'm very happy it's coming because I think the county and the school district and everything else needs this. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews.
When will the judge, when will the county be notified about, I know overhead, they've contacted, I guess, the landowners. You've talked to the landowner about crossing our county right of ways. Of course, with the power line, I don't guess they have to have permission, do they, cross the county road if it's above ground? Same way if it's underground. If they dig their pits on private property, we have no jurisdiction over private property whatsoever. So they can cross a major highway as long as they're so high and also a county right of way, as long as the lines are so high without the county's approval. Is that not correct?
That's correct. They did come to us and ask, and what we said was we do not want any poles or guy wires in the right of way. For that's a safety issue and a road maintenance issue. And other than that, if they would respect the same overhead clearance that's required by TxDOT on a highway.
Right.
So
they have a utilities are set in the state of Texas. They have to go a certain height over public right of ways.
So past that. I mean, as long as they don't put poles or guys in the right of way.
Correct. Unless we were contacted in a situation where it maybe it has to be, but otherwise we haven't been. My understanding, since it's a private project, that there will be no guys or poles set in our right of way.
That's correct. They have to contract with the individual landowners.
What?
Ms. Hammond.
I've asked enough questions of Russell Graham to know what's going on with the transmission line at my house, in which I am at 171 FN 2005 East. So that kind of tells you where it's coming across the highway over to Cindy Wesson's place. And we are told that they are monopoles and that they will be, I don't know if they go all the way across with the brown poles that look more like a telephone pole that's not silver sticking out over the whole, the whole aesthetics.
Crystal,
there you go. It looks more like crystal poles, yeah. But anyway, and I haven't been told officially that the transmission line's going through there, but there are markers, and Russell has told me, because I've asked Russell Graham, and he said, yes, that is the way it's going to be. So the aesthetics will at least be better than those silver poles. So that's just FYI.
Thank you. Is any other questions or discussion? Okay. Well, hearing none, we will declare the public hearing closed, and we will reconvene Commissioners Court, which we recessed this morning about 9 o'clock. And on the Commissioners Court agenda, we are down to item 7, which is discuss and consider and act on an order to establish a reinvestment zone to be known as the Blue Bonnet Wind Power LLC Reinvestment Zone. There is an order which has been drafted by Jeffrey Allen, our attorney on this matter. And this is based and attached to it are the legal description, which ran in the Gulfway Eagle in the notice, and a project map. And I would remind the court that the test to establish a reinvestment zone is set forth in our guidelines and criteria, but basically, again, it has to be in the county. It has to involve an investment of capital in the zone, and it has to create employment. And the required notices to the school district have been given. So here is an order on the Blue Bonnet Zone. I would move approval.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, Judge.
Okay, we can do that now, or we can do it after we get a second.
I'd like to talk about it now.
Sure, go right ahead. And let's clarify that, Jackie, if you would, because I can't see them all, that our attorney, Jeffrey Allen, is or is not on the call.
He's
I was
here.
hoping he was on.
He was earlier.
Yes.
I guess if you take the screen share back, it'll put it back
Okay.
into the view.
Ms. White, would you mind canceling your screen share?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so Mr. Allen is on the call. Jeff, if you might unmute yourself, I think you're fixing to get a question. Go ahead, Commissioner Wright.
The question I have, Judge, is that Mills County totally is under a reinvestment zone present day. Is that correct?
Mills County was under a countywide reinvestment zone, and we changed that with the approval of the guidelines and criteria, which the court approved a couple of weeks ago. So now those projects are in place, but now going forward from that date, there's going to be a need to establish a court-approved reinvestment zone following a public hearing for each new project. And we can ask our attorney for input if you wish.
My concern
Okay.
is that in the south part of the Pretty project, it's coming over to Invenergy. That's in a different reinvestment zone.
Just to keep things simple, the motion was on the Blue Bonnet reinvestment zone, and that's a valid question, and I think we need to talk about it, but let's not mix our zones up.
Okay, sounds good.
So there was a motion on the floor for approval of a designation of the Blue Bonnet Wind Power LLC reinvestment zone. We have a motion and a second. Was there any discussion on the Blue Bonnet
On
zone?
the Blue Bonnet deal,
Correct.
they're just gonna have two full-time employees in the county?
That's what their proposal is. Now, there's
no limit to how many they have to have?
no, the limit by law under the tax code and in our guidelines and criteria is that it has to create new full-time employment. We don't define how much, and neither does the state. So this meets the qualification for a zone. Now, whether or not it meets the standards that the court sets when it chooses to grant or not grant an abatement and the terms of the abatement, that's a different discussion. But it does meet the legal qualifications for a reinvestment zone.
Under the reinvestment zone for the Blue Bonnet project, will this only include the wind project? In other words, if an investor comes in, say a land subdivision, will it fall under this reinvestment zone?
Let me defer to our attorney. I believe this reinvestment zone is an outline of a geographic area. And so that other projects could come into that area. They would still have to separately ask for an abatement, but the zone might be established.
Correct.
Mr. Allen, would you please weigh in on that?
Yes, if another project, regardless of what it is, wanted to come into the reinvestment zone, they could within the reinvestment zone, because you're designating it as an area where you're looking to improve, to increase investment, obviously, and employment and those sorts of things. So it could under a separate abatement agreement. If it was outside that boundary, we would have to make a separate reinvestment zone. They would have to be done on the same terms, the same type of terms that you did on this. But if somebody wanted to put a subdivision in there, theoretically they could. It's not common, but it could happen.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Wright?
Yes. Would include.
Are there other questions? We have a motion and a second on the designation of the Bluebonnet Wind Power Reinvestment Zone. Then, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is discuss and consider an order to establish a reinvestment zone to be known as the Pretty Wind Project LLC Reinvestment Zone. And I'll restate Commissioner Wright's question, I think, and it had to do with the fact that the proposed zone includes projects that were previously approved and under abatement under the countywide zone. And let me put that to Mr. Allen, our attorney.
Our opinion on that is that depending on when that was passed, the countywide zone would have expired and we can enter a new zone. If there is an existing zone there, the way that we would at least recommend, and Mr. Gregson may chime in on this, would be to designate this zone, save and accept those portions that are within the existing zone.
How would
frame would they expire? What is the law on that?
It would be 5 years, if I'm remembering correctly.
I believe the law is that a zone expires 5 years after it is approved, unless it's renewed pursuant to this process of public hearings and meetings and so forth.
That was one of the concerns I had too, Judge, is that I think it was 3 years ago that we did countywide. That's the reason I asked that question.
Well, it's expired or modified. We have modified it since. There was an issue on whether or not it was properly renewed 3 years ago because of the public hearing advertising requirement. But in any case, it's been modified. Does that make a difference, Mr. Allen?
Well, what we were looking at was that we were going back to an original 2015 designation is what we looked about over the summer. And then thereafter, there was irregularities on the renewal. So we were looking back to the existing zone in 2015 and viewing that as the time period to where it would have expired now. And that's essentially the way that we went with it to make that decision on how to move forward. So we would be able to treat these independently of those earlier projects.
If I forget whether it was you or Miss, I think it was you that said the way to deal with this would be to define the Pretty Zone as save and accept the properties included in the other zones. That gets complicated. If the prior zones were the entire county, you can't save and accept
right
the entire county. Now we could try and draw the boundaries either tighter so they don't encompass the prior projects.
That's what we were, we were moving forward under that 2015 reinvestment zone. It expired and was not renewed. That's really what we're looking at. based off of what you had already mentioned on the theoretical renewal from 3 years ago, that there weren't the necessary hearings and the various things that happened at that time. So we looked back to the 2015 zone to say it had expired, and that we needed to designate new zones to allow these projects to move forward.
Does that address your
sir, it
question?
does. As long as they're, like I say, we're expired, which they are.
Overlapping.
Or do you have any questions?
As long as the reinvestment zones are not overlapping.
I think what the map shows is there was physical overlap, but due to the expiration date, there's not a legal overlap.
Right.
That's my understanding of what it just said.
Yeah.
So
Well, I would move approval of the motion for the creation of the Pretty Wind Power LLC reinvestment zone.
I'll second that, yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm not.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is approved. I will, let me do our usual and start down. With these documents require a lot of signatures. So we'll let that start. Let me go back to our agenda. That concludes the motions. What's left is commissioner's report. Since Commissioner Wright is busy signing, let me see if anything Commissioner Guerin wants to mention.
Don't have one reports next Sunday. We got a little bit of rain, like cold wind.
A little bit of rain and a few trees blowed over on the roads. And that's about it. Working on equipment.
Okay, Commissioner Williams, I know had something he wanted to talk about, but since he can't be here, that's just going to have to wait. I can't for the life of me remember what it was. Did you have?
I've just been doing some road work and doing some maintenance since we got a little rain. We needed it, so that's all I have to do.
Okay, on the judge's report, I do know that he has submitted the project list to TxDOT on the, what do we call it, the County Transportation Infrastructure Grant. I think he's been working with everybody on that. The most interesting part about that is that TxDOT told him they want to come physically see each project and then they'll sign off on it. So that was why the site definitions were so specific. And y'all will individually probably either hear from them or just notice a TxDOT truck.
Jason had contacted me about that and said that he's working on it, and said told me that they would be contacting me about the TxDOT.
Yeah, I would advise each of y'all to take a picture of your, use your cell phone, get a picture of your site so that when we do it, there's no question of what it looked like before we started. Okay, that's all I had. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for the remote participation. I know it's an awkward way to do it, but I think under the circumstances, it served its purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Smith.